Hey guys, welcome to Super Team Podcast. Today we have Udi. Akshay, how do I describe who Udi is?
Yeah, actually, Udi, why don't you introduce yourself, and then I will tell you why we all have more in common than we think.
Okay, great. I mean, I feel like I'm in the right place because I'm a comedian. That's what I do. That's what my Twitter bio says. And I just mostly make crypto jokes, and on the way I also invest in them, I guess, if I find them really funny.
Good thing about being a crypto comedian is that it's so much better than being just a comedian, because as a crypto comedian, you are way richer, first of all, than just being a comic. As being just a comic, you just upset more people when you make no money off it. But being a crypto comic, you get to
I
upset
feel like
people.
that's the same with crypto. Yeah. I don't think that piece changes. So Udi, we were like, okay, what is the best way to introduce you, right? So we said, okay, you're obviously a industrial grade troll. So we went back and looked at all of the people you have trolled. And this entire presentation is just a compilation of everyone you have trolled. So we'll talk through each category of people you have trolled, why you trolled them.
How far back are we going?
I could only go back a few months on Twitter, Udi, and of the stuff I remember. Okay. I mean, you're welcome to add context. So Udi, the way I like to describe you is obviously you're a Bitcoiner. I think that's fair to say. But I think you're a barbell of, like, your personality is effectively a barbell of a Bitcoiner and a bakchod. Okay, you're now going to learn a new Hindi word, that is in the same territory. There's no English word that captures the depth of this word. The closest you come to is, I guess, shit posting or trolling, but that's such a corporatized version to describe what this is. It's basically, it literally translated, it's someone who speaks nonsense, but that doesn't really capture the essence of it. It's someone who's saying things that are outside the Overton window, but in a way that's funny. I think that's the true. Can you say that, by the way? Does the tongue permit you?
Oh man, I of course I can say bakchod. Bakchod?
Oh, not bad. There you go.
Bad. Yeah.
Okay, so obviously you came up with the famous meme, "Have fun staying poor," on Twitter, and and your claim to fame on this should be the fact that this was on the Wall Street Journal.
Yeah.
Do you want to explain how this meme came about? And I know you've been asked this a million times, but I still think this is so good that it's worth telling to a new audience.
Yeah. So, well, memes are not really invented; they're discovered, right? It's like,
Yeah.
the meme always existed, and I just happened to say it. And I think that I probably collected parts of it from other communities. I think the Chainlink community used to say something like "stay poor." Like whenever someone would say that they're not interested in Chainlink, they would just tell them "stay poor." And I just thought it was a bit too negative, so I added "have fun staying poor" to what I want is for people to have fun, and it's their choice to stay poor. It's not mine, but I do want them to have fun while doing it. So that was kind of, and then at some point really got out of it, and so it got into to Wall Street Journal eventually, which was pretty funny. And that was, by the way, I think that was the actual day of the market top in May, when they kind of published this, like they said, well, the crypto bros are saying have fun staying poor, but who is going to stay poor where all this ends? And that was, and I was like making fun of that, but that was literally the market top. So I guess they kind of made fun of us.
And just to be clear, this was a meme where anybody with a blue check on Twitter or some TradFi rich person, whenever they said something about Bitcoin that they didn't truly understand, it was like basically a bat signal for all the Bitcoiners to go on their tweet thread and say, have fun staying poor.
Yeah.
It was not actually poor people.
Exactly. Yeah. The goal with that was really to go to, there's a type of person who doesn't want to do any research about Bitcoin, doesn't want to understand how it works, but has a very strong opinion about why it's bad. And you can't really have a discussion with them. So you're just saying, you know what, instead of me explaining this to you because you're not interested, I'm just going to tell you to have fun staying poor. At which point they would usually say something like, well, I'm not poor. I'm very wealthy.
And then you can go exactly. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay, cool. Memes are obviously really important, Udi. You've been on crypto Twitter for a long time. You've seen the evolution of memes. These are some of the basic ones. I thought my favorite one really is on this slide is the one where they're projecting Bitcoin fixes this on the Bank of England. So bakchod.
Which side of the barbell are you on, Udi?
Right now,
are you the guy with the hoodie?
No, I'm usually the middle. Of course. The only time I make a correct decision is by accident. No, I'm usually on the middle.
You countertrade yourself?
That's something I learned to do eventually, and that actually works pretty well.
What does that mean, counter trade yourself?
Like, you do your research and you make a decision on what you should do, and then you do the exact opposite, and then it works out.
Like when you really feel like selling, you just buy. When you really feel like
Yeah.
buying, you just sell. That actually works. That I think.
But Akshay, you keep telling me, right? Like Akshay talks like this, which is, all of crypto Twitter just feels like we're fucked. It's just going to be down only. So this is the time to buy. I'm going to sell my house and I'm going to buy shit right now, right? Which is that, okay, if everyone's feeling like shit's going to go up, it means you're definitely going to go down. But if this is common knowledge, then isn't everyone going to do the opposite? Like, how does this fucking work? Like, this is a self-destructive prophecy. Like, how is this ever going to work?
That's usually what happens. I mean, when everyone really got bearish on Bitcoin, finally, like Bitcoin and the rest of crypto, people were so bullish for no reason for the entirety of early 2022 and late 2021. And when they finally decided that they're flipping bearish, that was pretty much the bottom. So yeah, that's how it works. We went all the way down from 70K to 33K, and Twitter became bearish around 36K, right?
Yeah. Okay, so this is probably the only serious Bitcoin tweet that we thought we'll pull up and talk about. And you tweeted this on the 17th of February, 2022. What was this?
Yeah, my point with this one is that I think that a lot of the benefits that you can get from Bitcoin specifically, they're the best when people don't know that you have it. And I'm like me, for example, I'm sometimes asking myself if I should have just kept quiet, never said a single word about it, because you just have more leverage that way, right? Like, you imagine if you just buy some Bitcoin over time, you never sell it. It's not that much that it's gonna change, affect your lifestyle or whatever, but you keep buying it over time, and no one knows about it, then you can, then that means no one can ever take it from you, because literally they don't know you have it. That's pretty powerful, especially when you think about some extreme cases, like if God forbid you have to like grab your stuff and run away, which is, something that people unfortunately need to do around the world sometimes, then this is like a very powerful thing, I think. It's just good, I would say, for everyone, for anyone. It would be good to have a small percentage of your portfolio, at least, in something like Bitcoin, and just keep quiet about it. You don't have to be like crazy like us and talk about it nonstop all day long. You can still reap most of the benefits without saying anything.
Yeah, I don't understand, like rich and anonymous is obviously better than, famous and poor. But somehow, when you get really rich, then what's the next game you want to play? It's status, right? It's social status. Sometimes I look at actual billionaires have YouTube channels and they're uploading videos, and I'm like, why the fuck would you do this? This is incredibly dumb. You have it. This is not like a few likes on. So at the end of wealth is status seeking.
Yeah, that might be true.
Any tips on how to shut the fuck up once you make money?
I'm not the guy to ask, man. Clearly, you have a full presentation to prove that I do not know how to shut up.
So do you want to explain both the screenshots, and then we have one question for you?
Looking forward to the question.
As are we, my friend.
Yeah. So I've been known. Well, I don't know if it's obvious for viewers, but obviously for you guys, I've been known as the Bitcoin maximalist for many years, and I've been quite adamant about it too. And I think that, the thing about it used to make sense, I think, being a maximalist, because especially, when I'm thinking to, let's say, back to 2017, where really, like, literally every other coin was a scam, like really designed to be a scam and designed to get as much money as possible, as quickly as possible, and disappear. That's literally what people did. I think that today things are different. I'm saying we Bitcoiners, I think we kind of put ourselves into this corner when we have to say that anything that happens to be listed on CoinGecko or CoinMarketCap is a scam, just because it's there. And it just doesn't make sense anymore, because there's some of them, not all of them, but some of them are, actual useful products and services that create value, and you just can't argue with that. Even if you don't like the fact that they have a token, the fact is that it helped. I just found, at some point last year, probably somewhat early last year, I found it became increasingly unproductive to continue saying that everything is a scam. Because the problem with that is like, I'm still very overweight Bitcoin, but if you can see that a ton of people are coming into the space, they're not going to Bitcoin first. They're going to Ethereum, they're going to Solana, they're going to other coins, they're going to NFTs, they're going to Dog coins, and maybe some of them are going to get to Bitcoin eventually. And if we're going to call them stupid and idiots and scammers while they're printing money, that's just not going to be a very good case to convince them. Like, they're going to look at us like idiots. At some point, I started looking into the arguments that my fellow Bitcoiners were making, and I was trying to, first in a friendly way, I was trying to be like, guys, we're not making sense. We're looking like idiots. We need to change. When that didn't work, I flipped to trolling them. So this guy Dennis, by the way, I like him. I like this guy Dennis. I think he's talented as in the things he do. I just don't think he should be debating about Ethereum, which is something he doesn't understand at all. I think he tweeted something like, he said that Vitalik isn't smart, something around that. And I was like, I replied something like, look, man, like when Vitalik was 3 years old, he was smarter than you are now. So like maybe maybe find something else to say about him. Not that it's like saying that he's not smart. You can say that you disagree with his views or whatever, but that he's not smart is really, I would say he's pretty smart.
Yeah.
So
yeah.
So we got into this back and forth, and he did a lot of Twitter debates at the time. So he was saying like, "Oh, you should debate me. I will show you that you're wrong about Vitalik." And I was like, "Dude, I don't know you. I don't want to debate you. Why would I debate you? I don't care." So then Dan from CMS Holdings showed up, and he was like, "I will donate $200,000 if you'll go debate him." And I was like, "Okay, fine. If you're gonna put $200K on the line for this, then fine, I'll do it." We had this debate. I think it was pretty interesting and funny. Probably the biggest funny moment about it was when I think Dennis made a point about NFTs being a scam, and I told him like, look, you can't call them a scam. And then he said, I never said they were a scam. and we're like, but bro, you just said it. And there are tweets where you say that they're a scam. And so then it kind of devolved from that. That was a funny moment. And since that moment, I think I became the enemy of Bitcoin in the eyes of many people because I dared saying that NFTs aren't a scam. So it
was quite a character transformation, because you could argue that have fun staying poor was a bit maximalist instinct, right? It came from from the place of where, if you don't understand, get the fuck out kind of thing. I actually want to read you a paragraph from an article called "Why the Yuppie Elite Don't Get Bitcoin." Have you read this?
No, I don't think so.
Okay, so let's see. Okay, let's try. The yuppie elite are accustomed to having the best information, the best education, the quickest of knowledge, and access to trends. Yuppies believe they are the people in the know. When you're in the ivory tower, you think the term ivory tower is a silly misrepresentation of your normal life. When you're no longer in the ivory tower, you realize how willfully out of touch you were with the world. Part of being in the ivory tower means you're in a socially insular bubble interacting with other elite yuppies. The natural outcome is you tend to believe that the things that are important and worthwhile are only important and worthwhile if the other yuppies in your social circle believe. Conversely, if people outside of your yuppie social circle are engaged in something that other yuppies aren't interested in, it must be for something that's for people not in the know. In this case, the lack of belief in Bitcoin amongst the yuppie elite, combined with the significant interest in Bitcoin amongst the non-yuppies, triggers a pattern recognition response. Bitcoin is for people not in the know. Does that line up with where Bitcoin maximalism arose?
Yeah, I think so, and for sure, when I'm thinking back to the very beginning, Bitcoin started as this very anti-establishment movement, and for many of the early years that's all it was. And today it's starting to change, right? Because institutions are talking about it, nation states are talking about it, but back then it was very, very anti-establishment. I think the big moment for Bitcoin maximalism, it didn't start in 2017, but I think that's when it really became super prominent, because there was this big debate inside the Bitcoin community about the actual content of the debate is not even remotely interesting. It was something about the size of the blocks and how to scale Bitcoin. And at the time, people acted like it's super important, but it really wasn't. What it really was, it was this clash between kind of the more, hacker type people and the more like business oriented people who are trying to just say, hey, we need to scale Bitcoin now because people are coming, we need to grow now. It doesn't matter if we lose some of its properties, we just have to do it. So I think it was really more of a cultural clash than anything else. And eventually, the hackers won, right? And the cypherpunks, like they like to call themselves, kind of won. That's also when the kind of what people call today toxic Bitcoin maximalism kind of took over, because at least what people believe is that the reason that they won is because they were just mean to people on Twitter. and therefore we have to continue being mean on Twitter because it worked once. So it's always going to work in every situation.
It worked against the elites as well, right? Like in some sense, against journalists, these big publications, and it did work, because complete frame rejection.
It did work. And I think that the thing that's changing is that, we're kind of swapping into a new territory now, and that means we're going to need to have new strategies. I'm not sure the old ones are going to work to continue growing. They can work if we want to stand in the same place and not grow, but I think we do want to grow. So
it's the problem that arises when the anti-establishment becomes the establishment, sort of, because when I look at, I'm probably more crypto native than the average person, but it looks like, okay, boomers dumped on millennials for a long time, got really rich. They're the richest generation. So they made it. And then Bitcoiners were the folks who didn't make it, who were like, hey, what the fuck? Hey, you guys made it, but you wrecked it for the rest of us. And now Bitcoiners are the ones who've made it. So they are that class. So anybody who's coming in new is looking at this saying, oh, this game we're fucked irrespective. Because why the fuck should I buy this at $40,000? It's just going to make you, it's every $5,000 it goes up. You're making a multiple, but I'm not. It's the same thing where Bitcoiners were in 2014, 15. When someone who's a billionaire is being a troll on Twitter, that's just less likable than when someone is being a troll to a billionaire, right? Like that equation changes dramatically. So you're right. The strategy has to change, because you gotta, like, if you want people to join the cult, you have to be the underdog. You can't be, you can't be the establishment.
Okay, so here's where Bitcoin stands today. Obviously I don't know whether it's a result of maximalism, whatever it's a result of. A couple of data points I think are interesting. One, you have the social conversations about Bitcoin at somewhat of an all-time low. And then two, you have one of the Bitcoiners who's, maybe I would describe Peter as a centrist Bitcoiner who's curious about other concepts. When you're a podcaster, there's only that much you can say about Bitcoin. So I guess just as a forcing function of running a podcast, you got to go explore other things that people are talking about. And he quit Twitter because he got trolled and people were pretty mean to him, I think. And then at the same time, the social conversation about Bitcoin is at an all-time low. So the question is, do you think that maximalism is the way to revive this? Because there is something to be said about being a intransigent ideologue, right? And if you kind of make that socially not okay, then people don't have an identity that they can, rally behind.
Of course, that's true. And I don't know if, it's hard to tell from the data if the reason that people talk about Bitcoin less is because they find Bitcoin less interesting right now than they did like maybe a year ago, or maybe it's because the Bitcoin maximalists are not as maximalist anymore. Maybe I don't see it personally. Like I think, like when you look at someone like Peter, I feel like the reason he was pushed kind of out of Twitter was because Bitcoin maximalists pushed him out. And from his point of view, I'm sure that he feels like Twitter just isn't benefiting him as much as it used to, right? Like he doesn't, he already has a very big audience elsewhere, and it's easier to grow over there than using Twitter. Twitter is like a way to access, unfortunately, especially around Bitcoin, Twitter is a way to access the hardcore Bitcoiner group, but not a very effective way at outreach to like the bigger Bitcoin community. So maybe Peter is like thinking that it's just not useful anymore. I think, the things I'm really excited about with regards to Bitcoin are things like, for example, what Terra is doing with Bitcoin now. And there are a bunch of other blockchain ecosystems that are starting to look at Bitcoin as a very good form of collateral. Terra is at the front of that, and there are others that are looking into it. And I think that that is super interesting to me for two reasons. One is that it's a completely new use case for Bitcoin. Makes total sense.
Sorry, Udi, can you just describe real quick how Terra and Bitcoin are involved?
Yeah, sorry about that. So what Terra is doing, Terra is this algorithmic stablecoin, right? Or it's a platform for algorithmic stablecoins like UST. There is a complete system for how the UST is managed in a way that it's supposed to stay at the stable price of $1. And to do that, they use a second coin that's called Luna, and they use that as a way to affect supply and demand for the UST stablecoin. And the problem, it's interesting. It works most of the time, but the problem with that is that if for some reason people do start losing faith in UST and do want to start selling it, then the backup for that is Luna. Luna is supposed to the demand for Luna is supposed to support the price of UST. And then what happens if the demand for Luna disappears? So then people lose money on both Luna and both UST, and then there's nothing else that can be done. So what they were doing to kind of alleviate that concern is to say, well, so we're going to acquire a bunch of Bitcoin. They're talking about acquiring roughly $3 billion worth of Bitcoin. I think they already acquired $1 billion worth of it. Basically using that as another mechanism to support the price of UST if it goes down. So basically buy back UST with Bitcoin if the price of UST goes down. And that's very interesting because there are two interesting things about Bitcoin that make it very good for that use case. One, it is not, it is decentralized. It is not centralized like, let's say, USDT and USDC, which are, they're controlled by Tether and Circle, and Tether and Circle can actually freeze accounts that hold USDT and USDC for regulatory reasons or what have you. They're also competitors of Terra, so it doesn't make a ton of sense for Terra to hold huge liabilities or huge assets of their competitors. So the nice thing about Bitcoin is that it's decentralized; no one can freeze it. But also, you could say, okay, ETH is also decentralized. Why don't they get ETH? But ETH, the thing about ETH and Sol and AVAX and whatever, they're competitors too. Bitcoin is unique in that it is not a coin of a competing platform. The Bitcoin blockchain is not competing with Terra because the Bitcoin blockchain only does one thing, which is making sure that Bitcoin, the asset, works. Bitcoin is really, really unique for that.
Yeah, it's like a true flag of neutrality, right? In a multipolar blockchain ecosystem and a multipolar world, maybe.
I think Bitcoin could have use not just for Terra, but for many, many protocols. There are, they're in a state of growth and they could use that. And I think it makes a lot more sense at this point in time than something like, a nation state buying some Bitcoin for their central bank as a reserve asset, which of course I would love if that happened. I definitely do. But I think that's more down the line probably. And for crypto protocols, it makes total sense to do it today. So I think I'm very optimistic about it. I think it can make a very big change on how Bitcoiners perceive crypto and also how crypto perceives Bitcoin.
Yeah, I think it financially incentivized maxis to think.
Yeah, I just want to touch upon one more thing here, which is the difference between saving and investing, right? Ideally, you did have this distinction. It doesn't exist anymore because everyone who wants to save money now is forced to invest it, and so everyone's an investor. Do you want to talk about why that's important in the context of Bitcoin?
Yeah, so actually, that's actually a narrative that I do see a lot of, more of the Bitcoin maximalist types talking about, and I very much agree with it, that Bitcoin is an asset for savings. And it's a very good asset for savings compared to the US dollar because it is not inflating, and that means you can definitely hope that over time you will not lose a lot of buying power like you do with the US dollar. So, assuming that you need the money in, 5 years and not in a week, because in a week anything can happen. But on a longer time frame, then I think Bitcoin is really good for that. However, it really isn't much of an investment anymore. I don't view it as an investment. Maybe some other people view it differently, and that's fine. But the way I look at it, we were hoping for huge growth. Then when we looked at things in whatever, some people in 2012 and some people in 2014, some people in 2016, we looked at things and we said, like, we think that this could grow. And it did, it did grow. It is now something that probably every human you would talk to in what Bitcoin is, at least, they'll say it's digital money. Maybe they don't understand what it is exactly, but they'll be able to say something like that. But I don't think we're going to see another 10,000x in Bitcoin, If people are looking for that, I think that's incredibly unlikely. But you could find this elsewhere.
That's what probably makes it a good reserve asset, right? The fact that it's not going to grow 10,000x more.
We can't not talk about this, your favorite subject, so take it away. This is a presentation that really helped me in my life. Presentation will link below in the description. It was called Why Tron is the Best Blockchain Ever. And not only did you make a presentation, you made it in VR, and you had Justin Tron show up on stage at the end of the presentation to give you I think what was a hug. It was kind of like a weird physical interaction. I think, do you want to talk about what the presentation was? Because in fact, I want you to talk about it, and then I'll tell you what idea it spurred in my head and why it was actually game changing for me personally, and which is why I want to have you on the spot. But go ahead and describe what was in.
At the time, I was having a lot of time trolling Ethereum people. I still do. It's still like a hobby that I have. But at the time I was really addicted to it. And I found that one thing that really pissed them off would have been when I said that Tron is eventually going to flip Ethereum. And so the reason I said that was like, I don't know, that was around 2019, 2020 probably. And what happened was Tron is in many ways, it's essentially a fork of Ethereum, right? And it was the first big, somewhat successful fork of Ethereum when you could just take a popular app or smart contract from Ethereum and just deploy it on Tron and use it. Now there are a ton of them, but back then it was the only one that was somewhat popular. And I was like just saying, look, guys, like Ethereum has, high fees and it's slow and it wasn't as expensive then as it is now, but that's what I used to say. And I said, like, look, people don't care about your pretend decentralization and security benefits and all those things, the nerdy things you talk about. They just want to make money, and it's going to be cheaper for them to make money on Tron, so that's what they're going to do. And that really pissed them off, and they were like, how can you say that? It's a scam and it's centralized, and all the things that the Bitcoin maxis like to say.
Yeah, I guess your point was also that if I want to transfer USDT, why would I use Ethereum? Because it's going to cost me anywhere between $5 and $50. But if I did it on Tron, it's going to cost me a few cents, and I'm trying to transfer USDT, not like settle $3 billion of sovereign assets.
And even if you do, if you do care about security a lot, when you move USDT, it's centralized anyway, and Tether controls the transfer anyway. So it really doesn't matter if you use Ethereum or Tron or AWS or what have you. You can use whatever you want. Tron, like Tether controls it either way. Exactly, a spreadsheet. So at the time, a lot of people, I was talking to a lot of people about that. Obviously, Tron wasn't the best bet to make. But at the end of this very presentation, I also talked about this announcement at the time from Binance. They started talking about the Binance Smart Chain, what ended up becoming BNB Chain. That obviously had tremendous success in 2021, way after this presentation. And, I talked about that too. I said, look, maybe it's not going to be Tron. Maybe it's going to be someone else who's going to fork Ethereum. But I think that there's no doubt that people will, and there's no doubt that they'll have great success. And eventually we saw that with BNB, we saw that with Avalanche, we saw that with Phantom, we saw that with a bunch of people who forked Ethereum.
You effectively predicted that presentation kind of spurred this idea of, what people want is really like underpriced. And there's like this taboo of being able to articulate what people want, because like the maximalists on either side will go after you. Point is, I guess that presentation laid the foundation for this kind of like this run of all these alternative L1 chains that had different ideas of how to scale that ecosystem. With that, this is the next one. How can we not talk about this? You hosted a Clubhouse space. First of all, you hosted Clubhouse. Now I know you're going to clarify. Okay, well, I'll let you clarify. And I marked it on the ETHBTC chart there. It's near absolute bottom.
Yeah.
Do you see this?
literal absolute bottom. Yeah. So here's what happened. I did this Clubhouse. I've been looking at the Ethereum chart for weeks, right? And ETH has been, this was, I think 2021, must have been like early 2021. And at some point, at the very beginning of 2021, Bitcoin was kind of ripping up and outperforming every altcoin. And then like a couple months into the year, Ethereum started outperforming Bitcoin. And obviously I was frustrated about it, having zero ETH, and a lot of other Bitcoiners were frustrated about it. And I was tracking the ETH chart, and with my predictive qualities, I decided that there's no doubt that ETH was going down. And once it breaks 0.03 for ETH versus BTC, it's over for ETH and it's going to zero. Now, to be fair, it was partially a joke. Like, I was kidding. I didn't think it was actually going to zero, but also like this. So here's the thing. I'm going on Clubhouse, and I thought, let's crack a joke about Ethereum going down. That would be funny. And I was starting the Clubhouse room, and I'm thinking, okay, how am I going to name the Clubhouse room? Because you want people to click it. And so I was like, okay, I'm going to say something that's extremely offensive. But it was like anyone who clicked through and actually entered the room would have heard that I was actually pretty positive about Ethereum. I was like, not about the price, but about Ethereum as a project. I was like, look, I was actually saying, me and a bunch of people in this screenshot actually were kind of saying, look, there are a lot of interesting things going on in Ethereum too. It's not the scam. And because, most of the room was like, yeah, it's a scam. Anyways, so it completely backfired, because I was like, yeah, I'm going to make this trolling headline. Eventually I got trolled to infinity because it ended up being the literal bottom. And I think it honestly created the bottom. It wasn't just a coincidence. It created the bottom because
you triggered all the ETH whales.
Yeah, I know of a bunch of ETH whales. Like, they told me, look, you are so stupid. We're going to buy ETH now to prove you wrong.
So Ethereum moving to proof of stake. Obviously, Spartan had this tweet earlier today, which was, hey, the TradFi folks are going to be all over this. Real yield, net deflationary, you can charge for custodial fees, can create all these financial products around it and charge fees. And they're going to be super pumped to participate in this. Do you think Ethereum moves to proof of stake? Do you think what DJ Spartan's saying will impact how that ETHBTC chart continues to perform? What do you think?
So let's start with what I thought before. I used to think in the past, Ethereum will never switch to proof of stake, right? It's a joke. They'll never do it. And at some point last year, I changed my opinion on that, and I was like, you know what? They look to be really serious about this. They look to be finally in a good position to actually carry it out. I think that they finally have adults in the room too that will not let them postpone it any longer. So I was like, you know what? I'm convinced that they're going to have proof of stake deployed by the end of Q1 2022, which happens to be in 3 days. And we don't have it yet. So if we do end up going into a bear market, which I don't think we will, but if we do end up going into a bear market, then I don't think they're going to launch until the next bull market, because that's a waste of a good narrative. So they're just going to wait it out for 3 more years. So it's either now or never. Anyways, I think it will have some benefit. I mean, it's very possible that most of it is already priced in. Who knows? But it's definitely a fundamental benefit. It can't be fully priced in because obviously some of them still believe it's not going to happen. So it's not fully priced in, and there is going to be a benefit. That's for sure. Is it going to be as revolutionary as some people say? I doubt it, but there will be some benefit for holders, no doubt.
Do you think ETH flips Bitcoin?
I find it unlikely. I don't think it will. Saying something like I don't think it ever will is kind of silly, because really, who knows? And in 2017 it came inches away from flipping Bitcoin, right? Like, it could have. I think it was 2-3% away from flipping Bitcoin. It could have just as easily. It could have happened. And I don't think it would have changed anything. Like, let's say instead of getting to 3% below flipping Bitcoin and crashing, let's say it got 3% above Bitcoin then crashing. Like, would that change anything significantly about where we are today? I doubt it. So I don't think it's really important. It's just like something we like to talk about. But
you recently attended the Avalanche conference. Do you want to explain what is that body like? First of all, what were you doing at the Avalanche conference, and what are you doing in this picture? And why
Okay,
don't you
so-
have your sunglasses on? Those are the three. Like, I think the third one is also important.
Yeah. Okay, let's start with the sunglasses. It was just I had my sunglasses on hand and I considered using them, but it was dark and I just thought I wouldn't be able to see anything if I wore them and I would give a bad presentation. I ended up not wearing them and still giving a bad presentation, so maybe I should have just wore them. But
Do you have a sunglass
and
origin story?
as we all know, I'm a buckchod. Is that how I say?
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
So as we all know,
Fabulous.
I'm a buckchod, and I can't pick photos for my profile pictures like a normal sociable human being would. And I just looked through all the pictures I had, and this looked like the most normal one. I didn't have any specific intention for it. It was probably like 15 years ago or whatever. So I just picked it. And then everyone recognized me as the sunglasses guy, so I just had to stick with it. That's the explanation. And there was literally no thought behind it, and you can see that it was really not very well thought out. So as for my gestures, it's even funnier in video. Like unfortunately, I speak with my hands. Right now, you don't see it because I hold them beneath where the camera sees because but I'm still moving them very, very enthusiastically throughout this podcast. I don't know why I do it. I can't stop. And it looks when I do a presentation, I look like a complete idiot. But it keeps people interested, it keeps their
All right. We're to I think
Okay,
the
this
last
is a
category.
good one. This
All
might
right,
end up
you
being
got it.
my favorite.
What is going on here? So, Tanmay, Eric Wall and Udi are old-time Bitcoiners who've been around on crypto Twitter for a while. Eric, I think, is in some Nordic country managing some fund where none of the employees of the fund are on Twitter. So he's
a very funny
you guys
guy.
He's very funny. And both of you have a track record of pulling out each other's tweets from 5 years ago and then just like, this is what we have. Okay, so do you want to explain what's going on here? And
Yeah, so Eric has been a friend for many years. It's funny. A lot of time people are like, asking me, DMing me and stuff, and they're like, "Are you okay? Is Eric mad at you? Are you angry at Eric? Like, what is going on?" I'm like, "No, we're literally like having fun. It's not. We're just having fun on Twitter. We're friends. We talk all the time. But also we both have a unhealthy obsession with being right." It's a very unhealthy obsession. I recommend anyone to avoid it. Like, it's completely useless. We have an obsession with it, and that's why we keep bringing up like tweets from the very, very far past of how someone said something that was wrong to make them look stupid. So I think in this one particular screenshot, I think that Eric was kind of telling me, look, I mean, he was telling me probably in, 2019 or whatever, the same thing that I'm actually saying now, right? That Bitcoin can be useful on other blockchains. That's what he was kind of trying to make that point to me like back then. And I was like, no, that's stupid. Why would anyone want to use Bitcoin on other chains? You can use Bitcoin on Bitcoin. And anyone who does that is just stupid and doesn't get what Bitcoin is for. I said something like that. So he brought it up, and I, just to make him feel a bit bad about himself, I said something like, well, but Eric, this is, we're human beings, we develop and we change, and I just, my perspective grew and changed, and we should celebrate that. And then everyone was kind of ganging up on him, like, why are you being so mean to the person who learned? And so that was funny. And he was, meanwhile, in text, he's like, Udi, I can't believe you did that to me. I was winning this argument, and you flipped it on me. How did you do that? And so that was funny.
Udi, this is the last one we have for you.
Oh, yeah.
All
This
right.
is the best. Oh,
all right. So
boy.
they all came back. They came back with something strong. So tell us a little bit more about who your friends on crypto Twitter are, like what the culture is like, and then explain the slide, please.
Well, I think one of the best things that I like the most about crypto Twitter is that most of us at least, are constantly making fun of each other, constantly cracking jokes. And really the best experiences I've had in this space were with people who just don't take themselves too seriously and just have fun. And not everyone is like that. A lot of people do take things extremely seriously, which I honestly feel a bit sorry for them because they are missing out on like the best aspect of this. One of the more popular jokes, unfortunately, on crypto Twitter is the joke of me being bald. It has a very unfortunate origin story. So the way it happened, I was trying to attract Kobe's attention. Hopefully most viewers know who Kobe is. He was one of the earliest people on crypto Twitter and has a very large followership and also a very successful crypto trader and investor. And I was trying to just attract his attention, kind of like Akshay was trying to attract my attention for many, many months. And I did that by calling him bold very, very frequently to the point that I managed, to have some medium success in it. There was this hashtag that people would use, Kobe is bold, and it had some traction. To the point that eventually Kobe saw that and decided he's going to annihilate me and just call me bold back. And since he has, 20 times the amount of followers that I do, then immediately he started. Everyone even forgot that I even ever said that about him. And that's it. And then I became the Twitter bold guy. So I guess I did get Kobe's attention. The cost was that I'm now forever bold. I didn't even go bold yet. Like what would happen when I do lose my hair? That would be even worse.
Any advice for people watching how they can become more independent, learn to think more independently, invest more independently?
Yeah, I think that for me, if we try to be serious for a moment, then the comedy thing is, for me, it's a way to express myself, but also it's just the way I look at the world, right? Like I try to not take things too seriously. For me, like literally the process of thinking when I'm thinking about investing in something, it's literally, well, someone's going to give, maybe send over some deck, or they're going to write a thread on Twitter or whatever. And I'm going to look at it and I'm going to think, well, this guy is way too serious. So I need to find how I'm going to make fun of it. And in the process of doing that, you get a pretty good understanding of what the thing actually is and what's good about it and what are the weak points. For me, it helps a lot. So if I would give someone advice, it would be to, don't take this stuff too seriously. If you do, try to take a step back and think about why you do, because that means you might have some blind spot somewhere.
Awesome. Great advice. Doesn't mean you're going to get rich with it, but
if based on my experience, you will not. but I hope someone else will.
Udi, thank you so much for joining us, man. This was awesome.
Amazing. We'll link to your socials. Do you also angel invest?
I would say I'm learning.
You're learning? Okay, for founders who are raising, if you want someone who will cut through the bullshit and give you the real thing, then
then make fun of you on Twitter.
Out. Yeah.
Awesome, Udi. Do you want to plug something, Udi? Or
no, just really click the button with my Twitter account and click on it and click the block button as soon as possible. All right.
All right.
Thanks a lot, guys. This was fun.
Thanks, Udi. Thanks for joining us.